Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going over the Fantasy Football Hidden Gems of Week 9. So, for those of you who are familiar with the Fantasy Gauntlet and the Hidden Gems, for Week 9 of the Fantasy Football season, I scoured the earth in search of these powerful hidden gems in order to complete my already deadly fantasy lineups. Now, if you're any familiar with the Fantasy Gauntlet, which many of you are, you'll know that already this gauntlet holds a lot of power, but as soon as I start to collect these 6 hidden gems and complete my ever so powerful fantasy gauntlet, I'm able to rain down knowledge and fantasy points on my opponents, and that's what I'm here to help you guys do. Find these hidden gems, let you know where they are. Maybe some of them are on your waivers, maybe some of them are sitting on your bench, but either way, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to help you guys out this week, Week 9 of the fantasy football season. So let's get right into it. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you guys are doing well. Do not worry. I've seen many of you in the comment section saying, where's the fantasy hidden gems? It will show up. It is a weekly episode. This week's just been it's been jacked up, all right? Since the beginning of the week, since last Saturday, it's been pretty messed up. So it's okay. We're back on track. We're here with the fantasy hidden gems for Week 9. And before we begin, I just want to say I will get to your comments in the comment section. After I record this video, I'm going to go spend the next 7 hours answering questions. I'm not kidding. That's how long it took last week to answer all your questions. I'm going to make sure I get through that. If you have any more questions, please go ahead. Comment. I'll get to them eventually. But I'll make sure I'll get to them before Sunday so you guys have my opinions on your specific matters. Anyway, let's begin with the fantasy hidden gems for Week 9. Let's go ahead and... What is that? Oh, my goodness. Week 9 of the fantasy football season. I'm bringing it out. Here it is. We've got ourselves the fantasy gauntlet in the flesh. And the first player we're going to be talking about is Cole Beasley of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, why are we talking about Cole Beasley as the power stone for this week? A guy that you probably won't be able to take advantage of until Monday night. Obviously, they're playing against the Tennessee Titans in Dallas this coming Monday. Here's the thing about Cole Beasley. He's been the number 1 wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys this entire season. Currently, he has 350 receiving yards, and the next most receiving yards on the team is from Jeff Swaim, the tight end, at 250. There is not another receiver that's within 200 yards receiving of Cole Beasley on this team. I think the next most is Michael Gallup at, goodness, I don't even know, 170, somewhere around that range. Where he only has about 19, 20 catches. As of right now, Cole Beasley, he is the number 1. He is the go-to. Now, we obviously know that Amari Cooper has been brought into the Dallas organization to play the outside receiver. I don't see that hurting Cole Beasley this week as the power stone. Cole Beasley is going to be able to, cause some havoc himself. Cole Beasley, as of this season, the last 2 weeks, this past week, the Dallas Cowboys were on a bye week. But the 2 weeks prior to that, Cole Beasley has, for sure, off of targets, receptions, opportunity, snap counts, has been the number 1 wide receiver of this team. Cole Beasley in the last 2 weeks, when they played against Jacksonville and Washington prior to going to their bye, he had 19 targets, 16 receptions, almost 157 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. By all means, this guy's been double-digit fantasy points and half-point PPR, and maybe even in your standard leagues, he's been good. This coming week, as the power stone, I have a lot of confidence in Cole Beasley. Even with the addition to Amari Cooper within this offense, I think, yes, the Dallas Cowboys are a run-first team. Amari Cooper should be able to help them open up, but Dallas and especially Dak Prescott, without having a Jason Witten as a security blanket, he's got to go back to Cole Beasley. We've seen him in the past, especially Dak Prescott's rookie season, use Cole Beasley a lot within their offense and being a vital part. That's how I see it rolling out this week, and that is why Cole Beasley is our first hidden gem, the Power Stone. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next guy that we want to talk about here, Alex Smith. All right, so I traveled to Washington in order to collect the Space Stone this coming week. Now, why is Alex Smith considered a hidden gem for this week? Well, many of us know. I mean, there's 6 teams on bye week, consisting of what? Carson Wentz is on a bye, Andy Dalton's on a bye, Andrew Luck's on a bye. There's no way in heck that you guys play Josh Rosen or Eli Manning unless you're in 2 QB leagues. But if you're in a 2 QB league, then guys like Alex Smith, they're not going to be available. But if you are playing in that single quarterback league, standard format of rosters, as of right now, Alex Smith this coming week, he has a juicy matchup. And as the Space Stone, he's got to use that arm to elevate his team. He's playing against the Atlanta Falcons defense, who by all means are the worst. I mean, okay, they're not the worst. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and someone, I saw it in the comment section, yes, the Raiders defense may be the worst defense I've ever seen. That Thursday night performance, embarrassing to say the least. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, the New Orleans Saints defense, well, sometimes, especially against the past New Orleans Saints, but otherwise, the Falcons defense, another NFC South team. The Atlanta Falcons defense, they've given up the second most points to the quarterback position through the first 8 weeks of the fantasy football season. And that, in my opinion, and to the opinion of the Fantasy Gauntlet, is very advantageous for Alex Smith. We know Alex Smith hasn't played, out of his mind this season. He's only thrown 8 touchdowns. In 8 weeks, he's only thrown 8 touchdowns. Put that into perspective. There are games where Alex Smith he'll throw the ball 40 times, yet he'll never find himself throwing a touchdown in those games. Now, why specifically do I think Alex Smith has a very good opportunity this week? Well, besides the fact that the Atlanta Falcons defense is really, really just, they're not great at all. Okay, they're giving up a lot of points through the air, on the ground. And this team, they're going to have to use, Alex Smith's arm in order to do some stuff. Adrian Peterson, yes, he may look good, but they're going to lock in on that. They know that this team is a run-first team. Majority of their attempts throughout the entire season have been on the ground. Chris Thompson will be out. And also Capri Bibbs is questionable. Adrian Peterson's going to have to carry the ball a lot, and eventually they're going to lock down on him. They're going to be able to force the Redskins to have to pass the ball. And that's where I see Alex Smith finding success in the play action, throwing to his tight ends, finding some receivers here and there. And I like Alex Smith as a guy who's a sneaky start. I mean, many of you may not have options this week. You may have players on bye week at the quarterback position. Therefore, you're going to have to go to the waivers. And I like Alex Smith as a Space Stone for this coming week. All right, let's move on to the next guy I want to talk about. We're talking about the reality stone. And the reality of the situation is that the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, are playing the second worst team giving up points to the wide receiver position on a weekly basis, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My goodness, I talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wearing way more than I should. But by all means, they are a terrible defense, and they can score a lot of points on offense. And it's just a perfect mix for fantasy. For fantasy owners, opportunity, it's the perfect combination. When your quarterback and your offense is never safe because they have to continue to score, it only helps. But as of right now, Carolina Panthers have one of the best matchups of the week. I've already mentioned guys like Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Funchess, Greg Olsen all week long, as they're going to probably have good weeks themselves. The next best option within this offense, and a guy that is steadily getting more and more momentum as the weeks go on, it's DJ Moore, a guy that we already knew is going to be a lock for the wide receiver 2 spot of the Carolina Panthers. It only took a couple weeks and took Torrey Smith getting a little bit injured here and there to force DJ Moore to continue to get in this offense. As of the last 2 weeks, DJ Moore's snap count has continued to go up, and his touches and opportunity have continued to go up. As of this last week, the Carolina Panthers, when they played against the Baltimore Ravens, DJ Moore had played 71% of the offensive snaps, which was only 3% behind Devin Funchess, who only played 74% of the offensive snaps. It's pretty evident to me that they have no favorites, and the only 2 favorites within this offense is DJ Moore and Devin Funchess at the wide receiver position, while Torrey Smith will take a backseat. And yes, Curtis Samuel will transition and find himself some opportunities here and there. There will be plays designed specifically for him. But as of right now, DJ Moore, this coming week, as of the last couple weeks, he's on average a 4 to 5 touches kind of guy, 4 to 5 targets. And he's progressively getting more and more involved within this offense. I like his opportunity this week. He has a great matchup. And with all of these snap counts, the targets that he's gotten as of late, he's just got to make one play. And this coming week, the reality of the situation is I like DJ Moore a lot. I've been talking about him all week. I've been talking about the Panthers all week. And he's my reality stone. So let's go ahead and move on to the next guy I wanted to mention. Oh, goodness. What did I just do? All right. We will adjust to that in a second. But as of right now, what do we have here? We have the Soul Stone for week 9 of the fantasy season. I traveled back to Washington in order to pick up the Soul Stone in the form of Josh Doctson. Now, many of you, I think this may be the first, maybe the second time I've ever mentioned this guy on my YouTube channel. Never mind. There's probably like 10 times I've said this man's name. But as of recency, I don't remember ever saying Josh Doctson's name. This is a for sure hidden gem. It's a guy that I haven't mentioned, and for good reason. The offense of the Redskins, they're not a pass first offense. They want to dictate the game. They want to chew the clock. They want to force their defense to make plays, give them short field opportunities, and they want to run the ball with their great offensive line and their quarterback who doesn't want to throw touchdowns. But this week, I'm telling you, Alex Smith can be really good, and that's going to be very vital to Josh Doctson's productivity. They play against the Atlanta Falcons. They're giving up, the fourth most points to the wide receiver position on a weekly basis. This secondary is pretty beat up. They've had themselves a lot of injuries. Now, here's the thing. Here's the Soul Stone aspect to it. Who are we sacrificing in order to have Josh Doctson be a fantasy stud this week? Well, it's already been done. Chris Thompson and Jamison Crowder are both out this week with injuries. Therefore, they are the sacrifices. And Josh Doctson this week, he's going to have himself some good opportunity. A couple statistics that I wanted to read for Josh Doctson. As of the last 2 weeks, Josh Doctson has played the most snaps at the wide receiver position for the Washington Redskins. This past week, he played 82% of the snaps, and the week prior had played 95% of the snaps at the wide receiver position. By all means, he is on the field. He's a guy that can even go out there and block. Paul Richardson, the other wide receiver on this team, he is most likely going to play, even though he is questionable. And in my opinion, I think Richardson is going to be pulling. Paul Richardson is going to be pulling the coverage of one Desmond Trufant, the number one corner of the Falcons, which gives Josh Doctson even more of an easy matchup. He's just got to be able to find himself open, which he usually does. As of the last couple of weeks, Josh Doctson has found himself some good fantasy value with Alex Smith. Specifically, let's go ahead and pull up these stats, shall we? Josh Doctson, as of the last 3 weeks, has had a total of 16 targets. Receptions haven't been there, specifically 11 receptions and nearly 100 yards receiving. Yes, the average depth per target is not there. Alex Smith is not going to go out and throw deep bombs unless it's to a guy that's wide freaking open. That's just how Alex Smith works. That's just how he functions. And there's nothing that we can specifically do about that. But I think Josh Doctson this week into such a great matchup and having so much opportunity, being on the field upwards of 85% of the time for all offensive snaps, that is something that you want. That's a guy that you want to play. And that is our hidden gem for the Soul Stone as of this week. There's a lot of opportunity in this game and for the Redskins, so we're going to act upon it this week, shall we? All right, let's go to the next hidden gem that I want to talk about. Goodness gracious, we're here. It's Danny Amendola. I traveled to Miami South Beach in order to collect this hidden gem, the Time Stone. Now, you may be asking, Andrew, what does this have to do with time? What is what brings it all full circle? Well, according to the NFL Network, I think it's Ian Rappaport or something like that, he had reported earlier this week that Ryan Tannehill will be out for another 2 more weeks due to his AC sprain in his throwing shoulder. Now, where exactly does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with the Time Stone being Danny Amendola, because as soon as Brock Osweiler took over this quarterback job in Miami, Danny Amendola has been insanely good at the wide receiver position. As of the last 3 weeks since Brock Osweiler has taken over, Danny Amendola has hauled in 24 targets, 19 receptions, 186 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, one which was a passing touchdown last week on Thursday Night Football. He has been fantastic. He has been the number 1 wide receiver. On top of that, the last 2 weeks, Danny Amendola has played 98% of the offensive snaps at the wide receiver position. Played 98% of the offensive snaps. He is on the field every single time. They are not taking Danny Amendola off of the field. Why? Because Albert Wilson out for the season. Kenny Stills has been banged up. Jakeem Grant is not a guy that you can play every single down. Yes, he's a speedster. He's a special teams player. But unless you're throwing a screen pass to him, what kind of value does he have? Right? Danny Amendola has been on the field. He has been Brock Osweiler's number one go-to. And this coming week against the Jets, who have given up the 7th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, I think Danny Amendola, he's set to have a very sneaky good week. That's why he's my time stone. Again, with Brock Osweiler, Danny Amendola has been the go-to. We know that there are guys like Devontae Parker out there who played well this past week, but how much can we rely upon Devontae Parker in our fantasy teams? I think Danny Amendola is the go-to. As of the last 3 weeks, let's pull up these stats, Danny Amendola has had 9.9 fantasy points, 17.4 fantasy points, and 13.92 fantasy points, all in half-point PPR scoring. By all means, he's 10-plus points a week on average, and he's been fantastic. So as of right now, Danny Amendola, he is the time stone. And by all means, guys, it was a wide receiver 3, perhaps a flex if you're thin. He's a fantastic option, and I'm sure he's sitting on many of your waivers. All right, let's go to the last guy I wanted to talk about this week as the Mind Stone. Yes, we are here with the Mind Stone, and I traveled to Tampa Bay, good old Florida. Goodness gracious, the weather in Florida is awful, but I've traveled there in order to collect the Mind Stone that is cursing me with knowledge. And as of right now, we have Chris Godwin as the Mind Stone. Now, why exactly am I going with Chris Godwin? Well, it's plain and simple. When Chris Godwin has been out there with Ryan Fitzmagic under center, they have been a dynamic duo, to say the least, in fantasy football. The first 3 weeks of the season, Chris Godwin had 3 touchdown grabs, had himself some great opportunity, and he was breaking, 10 points of fantasy week and half-point PPR on a weekly basis. Now, Chris Godwin's a guy that even with the departure of Fitzmagic hasn't been completely irrelevant. As of the last 2 weeks, Chris Godwin has been out-snapping Deshaun Jackson in every single week. So Chris Godwin is eventually going to get himself, and he's already there in my opinion, he's getting himself to that wide receiver 2 spot. Obviously, Mike Evans is that wide receiver 1, but Deshaun Jackson hasn't gotten as many snaps. He comes in, gets that one deep ball, and that's what pretty much makes him relevant. But as of right now, Chris Godwin, with the amount of snaps that he's gotten, the amount of opportunity we know he's going to get with Ryan Fitzpatrick because of that rapport they have built, this coming week, I'm telling you, this Panthers and Buccaneers game, it holds a lot of fantasy value. I've been mentioning it all week, and that's how the Fantasy Gauntlet has broken it down for us, ladies and gentlemen. And that's pretty much it. This is a pretty good fantasy gauntlet, week, in my opinion. Here's the thing. Before I sign off and let you guys get to asking questions in the comment section, I was thinking about this for a little while. What kind of hidden gems could there potentially be at the running back position? And as I looked up and down the list, there really wasn't much. There was a couple names here and there that stood out to me, but other than that, everybody at the wide receiver position, at the running back position, is either not going to get snaps or is completely not hidden. You know what I mean? But either way, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the hidden gems of week 9 of the fantasy football season. If you haven't yet, click that subscribe button, or if you already are subscribed, there's a like button down there, and there's a comment section waiting for you guys. Thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys, and hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Good luck on your games. See you guys.